thank you. If you did want to be talked about, you don't ever get a politician a microphone. But you know, today was a special day for me to be able to be here. I can remember 3 days in my life that I'll never forget where I was on those days. I'm older than most here, but as I think about those days, I was just old enough that I remember when JFK was shot. I'll remember the Oklahoma City bombing, and I'll remember 9/11. I can't tell you what day of the week I even got married on, but those days are in my mind forever. But when I can tell you exactly where I was at. I was a rancher at that time up in northern Oklahoma. I could take you to a spot in a pasture, 6,000 acres, and I can take you to the correct spot I was standing that day where we was feeding cattle. You think things through your life that make an impact, and this was one of them. I didn't know the Kennedy family back then. They became part of our life. We showed sheep together all over the country. But to see how this family has taken such a tragedy and made such a blessing for our community. Thank y'all. Thank you. You know, I didn't know the Arthur family back then. Didn't know your family. We moved to Chickasha for a while and went to school with them. Became part of our life. When we got to politics, it seems like we even got more involved. But I do know, especially your two sisters and you, Elaine, you have been a very much of a encouragement to my kids. And you could have treated it all other way, but you never did. You always had that smile. You always had that determination. I understand Mom kind of had that too. And to see that determination turn into so many positive things. And so students, if you kind of look at the people that were affected and how they affected other people, that's what this is all about. It's not about, they think it's more about treating how we treat everybody, and we appreciate it. Representative in this area, thank y'all. Thank y'all for having an excellent program. Thank you so much for bringing it. I look forward to seeing more. I actually have 2 counties, so I'm going to be with you again. And it was such a special presentation today. And I think as we look forward to this, we can look at it so many different. We can look at the negatives, but if we look at those that have been affected and how it made it so positive on other people, there's nothing else we take out of it. Let's do that in our life and in our world. We live in the greatest state in the nation, without a question. The greatest state in the nation. The greatest country. I kind of think I live in the best county. And in the best town now. Different towns for one time. But we've been here 15 years, and we could not be more happy to be a part of this community, and this is a big part of it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being a part.
Invite Secretary Blaine Arthur. She's the Secretary of Agriculture for Oklahoma. Well, thank you very much, Kara, and thank you to the administration for making time for us to remember April 19th today, as was kind of touched on. My mother was a veterinarian with USDA and worked there in Oklahoma City as well, and did not survive the bombing. And I think the message that Representative Lowe was touching on certainly is what our family tried to take from that something really, really awful can happen, and then you can decide to let that determine the direction of your life, either in a positive way or in a negative way. I grew up here in Grady County, actually lived not too far from here. I went to school at Chickasha. But the exceptional thing about living here in Oklahoma and being a part of this community, and especially part of Grady County, is people care about people, and people want to take care of people, and I think we certainly see that with the Oklahoma Standard, but I want to challenge you students a little bit, because I think we're probably living in a time where it's easier to share something negative or criticize someone or take that path. And you all can be the generation that decides that it's okay to have different opinions, that it's okay to have different ideas, that when you're old enough to vote, that just because you vote one way and I vote another way, that doesn't mean that we can't be friends. I would say that politics at the moment has gotten kind of challenging. So I'm very hopeful that young people like you are going to be the next leaders in your community, be the next legislators. We may have the next governor here at AmPo High School, and we want you all to say, you know, the reason that we live here in Oklahoma is because of the Oklahoma Standard, and we care about people, and we're going to do the right thing and be positive and not choose the other path, because the reality is, as some of you all may have known but saw in the video today, Timothy McVeigh had very, very strong opinions about things. Very strong opinions about things. Didn't know the people that worked in that building, and then showed up there that day and made a terrible decision that changed so many lives forever and ever and ever. And we have rhetoric kind of going on in the world right now that kind of leans that direction, and I think that's a little bit of a scary thing. But simultaneously, I know we have a lot of very smart, very thoughtful, very kind people that are going to ensure that we don't have situations like this in the future. So we're so glad that you all students took time to listen today, that you made those pledges, that you're going to hopefully carry through with that in your school day and later on in your life. So just very glad to be here today. Appreciate the staff at the memorial, appreciate the legislators for helping us remember, and certainly Amber is a very, very special place, and the Kennedy family is very special, so just glad to be here today.
Thank you, Secretary Arthur. And then to wrap up, I'm going to pass the microphone to Mark Bays, formerly with Oklahoma Forestry.
Thank you so much. Yes, my name is Mark Bays. I'm with Oklahoma Forestry Services. And like many people, I was there in my office the day the bomb went off. And my office was about 3 or 4 miles from where the Murrah building once stood. And I remember I was on the phone and our whole building shook. And we had no idea what happened to us that day. And when I looked out the second floor window, we saw smoke coming out of downtown Oklahoma City, and we knew something very terrible had happened that day. And then we heard that it was an attack. Somebody bombed the federal building. And when we hear about 168 people losing their lives and over the 600 that survived, there's very few people in Oklahoma that were not connected to those lives that were impacted that day. My neighbor lost his daughter. We lost David Higginbottom worked in the Department of Agriculture building. He lost his wife that day. And so it's been a big part of my career to help my little bit in helping remembering what happened that day. I can remember 1996, that first year when they were beginning to come up with an idea on how to honor and respect and remember the people that we lost that day and everybody that survived, that there was this tree that was in this parking lot right across the street from where the Murrah building stood. And this tree, it was kind of a mess of a tree. It took the full force of the bomb, less than a football field from where this tree stood. And then some of that blast caught some of the cars in the parking lot on fire, and it scorched that side of the tree. And it was in that moment that it became the survivor tree. It became this tree of strength and hope. And I remember I was standing next to a national media was there that first day, and there was a fellow that from 48 Hours, he was there, and he said, "Hey, Mark, it's in pretty good shape. We're having Dutch elm disease." And I went, "Oh my God, that's the problem that American elm trees have." And I made a lot of phone calls because he said that's what the media was reporting, and nobody fessed up to it. Nobody said anything about it. And the very next day, I get a phone call from a fellow by the name of Roland Denman. and he was the executive director before Kerry Watkins came on board, and he asked me, Mark, would you like to help? We need some help with the recovery of the survivor tree. And I said, absolutely, Roland, and know this, it's just not about me, it's not about Oklahoma Forestry Services. What I can bring to the table, and I've had that honor to bring to the table to this day, the wisdom of people that are much smarter than I am, but people in the tree care community have come to the support of the survivor tree, and that's a real tribute to them. A lot of them had people involved that they knew something about. We're rededicating this tree today, and Zach Mitchell was here with professional tree care. He had to leave, but he's been up in this tree a good part of today to do some pruning and some crown restoration, and so Zach came out here on his own time, on his own dime. He just wanted to come out and help with that. It's a real honor for me to be here as well, because I remember when we planted this tree some 14, 15 years ago. We did the planting, and it's so nice to see how big this tree has gone. The school, the principal, you guys have been doing a great job. This tree is just doing well, so thank you for everything that you're doing with it. I didn't know Blake, but I got to meet Blake's family that day, and to be here today, from my humble perspective, it just means so close to my heart to see you all, to meet you. You weren't around last time. You were in kindergarten that time. And the thing that I remember about this planting is that there were some students that didn't know Blake, because Blake was so young when he passed, but they would have been in his graduating class, that they came out and they helped us plant the tree that day. And that's what I really remember about that day out here. But this tree, it has come from, it's an offspring, just like you are offsprings of your parents. And so it's an offspring of the survivor tree. Each year we collect seeds from that survivor tree and grow them to young trees. They become saplings, and now they're planted all across Oklahoma and all across the country. And I even talked with my counterpart up in Alaska. They have a tree planted up there, remembering and honoring what happened down here. So these trees are spread all around the country and the world for that matter. Have any of you all visited the memorial? Raise your hand. No? A couple of you? Yeah. Well, when you visit the National Memorial, and I really encourage you to do that, because it tells the bigger story more in depth from what you learned today, but you'll see that around the survivor tree there's a circular wall, and it represents the unity of those who were impacted that day. And on it is inscribed, "The spirit of this city and nation will not be defeated. Our deeply rooted faith sustains us." And that's what we in the tree care community will continue to do. We've done it for the last 30 years. We're going to continue to do to make sure that tree is going to be around for the longest possible time to continue to share its message of hope and healing. So with that, we're rededicating. Why does that work so hard? You get it, Paul. We're rededicating this site today. And so with that, what we're going to do is take some mulch. So the FFA, you guys got to start this march for sure. So I'm going to open the bags of mulch, and then we'll just take out a handful and put around the tree. And then I'm going to invite everybody else to come up and do some of that when we spread mulch around. And certainly the families, you have to come up. But let's time out. Let's let the families come first, and then FFA will follow that. So.
I'll take a turn. You go do it.
Well, Avery's out here, so.
No, you go. You go.
Oh, I can go there. Okay.
You're fine, James. Go do some. Okay? Go do some.